JT and the Don were talking about how uh, Patrick Mahomes is possibly already the greatest of all time. Like, he's played in the league 6 years as a
Yeah.
starter
Yep.
and has been to 6 AFC title games.
Yep.
And as you said, it's like their 4th Super Bowl in 6 years, 3 in the last 4. Like, that's an unbelievable, stat.
Yeah.
But it's, with Patrick Mahomes, I would always say, well, he's had Andy Reid, one of the greatest coaches, and in my opinion, has surpassed Bill Belichick. And we're going to get to the reason why. I think Andy Reid is the greatest coach of all time. And I know that the rings don't support that, but as we've seen now, it's the coach does only so much. And Andy Reid has just done it with 2 separate teams at a high level, and Belichick has not. Belichick hasn't done it without his quarterback. Andy Reid has done it with multiple quarterbacks. He's won a lot of games, and he's been basically a top perennial coach. And so not only is there an argument for Andy Reid to be the greatest of all time, now Patrick Mahomes, who we thought, all right, you had Tyreek Hill, you had Andy Reid, you had Travis Kelce in his prime, you walked into a great situation. I mean, Alex Smith was putting up 56 points in AFC title games long before you showed up. And so maybe you are just a game manager, right? Like, there was that conversation. And oh, now you don't have Tyreek Hill. Now Travis Kelce is gone. And here we are. And maybe you've hit the wall. Maybe the time is over, and you proved us wrong. And so that will lead us, Bert, into the good, the bad, and the fugly. And my good is going to the Kansas City Chiefs because, honestly, my Bills should have won that game. I'm not going to hold you.
Yeah.
Josh Allen. I saw people, Josh Allen did this. Josh Allen's the reason that Bills are always in these games. Every time in the playoffs in these losses, he leads the field, the game tied or with the lead.
Yeah.
It's a missed field goal. It's defensive, just the coaching decisions on defense, just blowing it. And it just unfortunately keeps happening with the Chiefs. But, then the Ravens, who were quite honestly, overwhelmingly great all season. It wasn't a situation like the Eagles where they racked up a bunch of wins against bad teams, or a couple years ago when the Steelers went 10-1. Remember that? Remember when the Cardinals went undefeated like 13 straight weeks?
Yep.
And then when it came to the playoffs, and then you kind of look at who they played, and you're like, they haven't really played anybody above 5. The Cowboys kind of went through that this year, right? Everybody's like, ooh, look at the Cowboys. And then you look at the people they played.
Well, same schedule as the Eagles, essentially. Yeah.
Right. Miami was the same way. Never beat it up, and so the Ravens didn't do that. The Ravens literally were blowing out all the playoff teams by like 20 plus points. They thought, I thought the Ravens were going to steamroll the Chiefs. And Patrick Mahomes did it at Mahomes Magic, did it again. And shockingly, were you shocked to see the dad bod on Patrick Mahomes? The guy has a beer belly. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And it made me even more angry as a Bills fan. I was like, you son of a bitch.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. So my good is definitely the Kansas City Chiefs because I'm tired of doubting them.
It's got to be, right? I mean, and not look, the Bills' demise was obviously not converting on the third downs when they needed to. And then I'm going to be honest with you, the second half defense looked holy. Like, it just did not look, they looked like they had immense problems, and they let the Chiefs essentially they gave Mahomes room to throw. And you can't do that knowing how good he is in the pocket, and he's also mobile too. We saw it this past week as well. Listen, if you're not going to get his receivers open, then guess what? He's just going to take it himself and he's going to run for it. Much like Brock Purdy too. Look, I know we were expanding a little bit. Honestly, if I'm going NFL good, I have to give it up to the 49ers, despite people saying it's going to be, obviously bad play calling as well as bad coaching on Detroit's end. You don't come back being down 3 scores essentially without having some talent. And I'm a part of me is very happy for Brock Purdy because he started that game how he left the Green Bay game, which was shaky, almost nervous to a sense. And, for the Green Bay San Fran game, it was raining. They just came off the bye week. the Packers were coming out fierce. I get that, but to see them start the way they did, I was very happy because I was pulling for the Lions. But man, to see Brock Purdy turning on in the second half and that entire team to come together, I mean, what a feat in itself. But moving away from football, because I know we're not going to have that in a couple weeks, I do have to give a pulse check on the PWHL, the Professional League. That was basically a new iteration of what was the WHL, like last year or the year before. Fantastic league. The ratings are at an all-time high. They're selling out arenas and have high viewership both here as well as in Canada. The whole league is just structured to win, right? And even take care of the players. So they have a CBA in agreement, I think, until 2031, but it covers everything from housing stipends to per diems and hotels and salaries that range anywhere from 35K all the way up to 80K, which I know if you're comparing it to the NHL, still significantly low. However, what a lot of people forget or maybe didn't know about the regular, the WNHL was the fact that they didn't have that, and their wages were super low to the point where those that were on the team had to pick up a second job. And guess what? When athletes are picking up a second job, they're not devoting their time towards getting better as an athlete, which means the product at the end of the day that people are watching are not going to be as exciting. But now they have that opportunity where it is somewhat of a livable wage. They can focus on their craft and make for a more exciting product for everybody else. So they get health insurance, everything. So I do have to give it up for how, the PWHL has been structured, how it's been televised and easy to find too. I find myself watching it all the time because it's from what I'm streaming, I can find 1 or 2 games right away. Nice. And of course, they're going to obviously integrating in some of their top players into the NHL All-Star weekend that is this weekend too.
That's awesome. NBA did that, started in, they're doing it this year again and this year they're doing Sabrina Ionescu facing off Steph Curry in a 3-point contest. And usually the women would do like the skills contest. They would put women in the celebrity all-star game, like some of the WNBA players, or at least the legends. I'm all for a mixed, like a 3-on-3, like, you know what I mean? Like do or a 2-on-2. Like tournament, 1 NBA player and then a female player from the same city, or mix them up however you want to do it. But I think if you keep it within city, I know the NBA just went back to the East versus West format, which should always be the format.
I think
they're
so
doing
too.
that this year. One step closer. They're still going to do the stupid like themed jerseys. I just love when the players wear their own jerseys, or at least you do like the Pro Bowl used to do. You used to wear your team's jersey, but it was like a black and gold and a white and gold version. Do something like that. Like you wear your jersey, but it's like white and gold. Like it gives you a meaning to it. So I'd like that. My bad was going to be the Detroit Lions, but not for Dan Campbell. And I did address that on social media. But I'm moving it because before the show, Bert, that's why I'm wearing the hat. Joel Embiid of the Philadelphia 76ers tore his meniscus, or it was reported that he has a torn meniscus. And the reason why this is important is because a few days ago, when they went to travel to Denver, the news was that Joel Embiid, like 15 minutes before the game, decided he wasn't going to play. And there was a lot of people giving him a lot of flack for it. And he's been limping around. I mean, he's having by far like a great MVP season. You know what I mean? Like he's having one of the greatest seasons. I think a lot of players, and I wanted to pull this up real quick. I wish I had it, but I don't. He's having one of the best seasons of all time, to be honest. Like I'm not even gonna his numbers, his PER, like a lot of his stuff is going crazy. But a couple games ago, he last minute sat out for the game, and the Denver Nuggets coach said that Joel Embiid was ducking, or it was odd that he was playing. And then a lot of the Nuggets fans, because of the Jokic Embiid beef, were going on. And then the other component to, we're saying that he was ducking. And before I get to the main component, I just wanted to call out the Denver Nuggets head coach Mike Malone and all the Denver Nuggets fans out there, you doofs. Joel Embiid hasn't played a game since 2019. All right, assholes, let's run through it.
Mm-hmm.
In 2020, the Sixers didn't even play in Denver. Denver came to Philly. 2021, the Nuggets, we went to the Nuggets in March, but Embiid was hurt on the 12th of March, and he didn't come back until April 3rd. So he ducked a bunch of games. He missed it, not ducked, but he missed a bunch of games.
Mm-hmm.
In 2021, November 18th, Embiid was out with COVID a whole game before the Nuggets game. And he didn't come back until November 27th. So he missed 3 games in that stretch, he missed 7 games in that stretch. 2022, the Sixers never played in Denver. Last year, in 2023, the Sixers played the Nuggets in Denver on March 27th, but Embiid was injured the game before against the Suns, and that was their 3rd game in 4 days. So they gave him a rest day. He was already injured. And now this year, he tore his meniscus, and I'm pretty sure it was the game a few days ago against the Warriors because Jonathan Kuminga landed right on his knee. That was already hurt. So Mike Malone, you should be ashamed of yourself. Denver Nuggets fans, you should be ashamed of yourselves. There's a reason why nobody cares about your franchise. There's no reason that nobody cares about Nikola Jokic. It's why you have to bust out your Excel spreadsheets to try to justify why he's good. And it's not that he's not good. He's just boring. He has the fucking personality of a cardboard box. That's why he's not on TV. That's why he sits out the 4th quarter of All-Star games, because nobody actually wants to see him play. Fuck off. But the reason why this is news is because the NBA implemented a 65-game rule where you have to play 65 games of the 82-game season to be qualified to win the NBA MVP. So Embiid has probably been hurt, and he's been forcing himself to play in these games because he's already missed games. He basically already at this point of the season could have only missed like 5 of the next like 30 games that are left in the season.
Yeah.
And that's tough on anybody. So, or else he'd be disqualified from being the MVP. And he's clearly the MVP right now. So he was forcing himself to play, injuring himself further. So shame on all of you people saying Joel Embiid was ducking. Shame on Mike Malone. Because the only reason anybody knows your name is because you say dumb shit like this all the time.
Yeah.
Because he famously went after LeBron like 2 years ago for doing something similar, and now this. So fuck off.
I think it's pretty selfish of him to force himself to play just to chase a personal accolade and not get better for the team. Like, if you know you're playing a little bit hurt, don't you want to rest up?
Yeah. I can buy that. I think if winning back-to-back MVP, racking up MVPs when you're an all-time great matters, though. And when you have Jokic, who have won back-to-back MVPs, I think that was for him a goal. And he wasn't doing it like when he scored the 71 points. It wasn't like he was stat padding. He was taking all the shots. He was doing it within the flow of the game.
Yeah.
The team wasn't double covering. They weren't double. Excuse me. They weren't double covering him. They were giving him the shots. They were letting him shoot. He was getting to the lane. He was passing the ball. Matter of fact, Daniel House got booed when Joel Embiid was sitting at like 68 points. And there was like 3 minutes left in the game. And Joel Embiid made he could have forced a shot. He probably could have taken the jumper, but they were closing in on defense. He probably had enough room to put up the shot, but he made the correct pass. The guy left Daniel House wide open in the corner, and Embiid made the pass, and House missed it. So we got mercilessly booed, which sucks, but I get it. Like, history was on the line for the Sixers, and you want Joel Embiid to get that 70. He was sitting at 68 points. Like, time was running out. So credit to Joel Embiid for making the right play. He could have forced it easily, but he didn't. But yeah, I do understand that logic. Like, okay, you only have like 5 games to miss. And you're hurt. So yeah, you kind of sit out and you give up that MVP. But I feel like if you could have, I think the Kuminga falling on him hurt him. I think what he was trying to do was make the All-Star game and then sit out the All-Star weekend. You know what I mean? Like, because that's 2 full weeks. So I think he was trying to play to keep his eligibility. And then All-Star week is like in another week or so. Trying to make it to that. Probably skip the All-Star game.
Yeah, rest
and
up
then and use those 2 weeks that you're off to rest that knee up. And I think the Kuminga falling on his knee is what messed all that up.
I know you had mentioned that you just got the alerts? I don't know. Did they say anything? Is it just going to be rehab or is he going to get surgery?
They are using the next several days to chart a thing, because
Plan.
the problem with the meniscus is you can get it cleaned up and be
Yeah.
out 4 to 6 weeks,
Yeah.
or 4 to 6 days, or you need to get surgery
Yeah.
and you'll be out. Or no, yeah, if you get it cleaned up, 4 to 6 weeks. If you get surgery, that's 4 to 6 months, which means
Yeah.
basically the season's over for him.
Yeah.
I
And it
would
can be tricky
assume,
too, depending on what it looks like underneath, from what I've heard
right?
as well. Because even if you get surgery on it, chances are you'll need another surgery down the line too. Yeah, that sucks. It does.
Sucks.
Hopefully he can just rehab and be out a couple weeks and then come back a little bit more. I mean, thankfully it's not. I mean, it's major because he's not playing, but it's not. It doesn't have to be season ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if this continues the cycle, Bert, I'm wearing the Sixers hat. I had the Bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they let me down like they do every year.
Mm-hmm.
Sixers always do it in the playoffs as well, but they're doing it a little bit earlier. And now that Joel Embiid is hurt, and I'm going to assume because it's the Sixers and it's Joel Embiid, this is going to be one of those 4 to 6 month deals. The season's over. So now it's time, a lot earlier than expected, to move on to the New York Mets.
Yeah.
All right. Now,
Yeah.
the New York Mets will inevitably let me down. And when
Yes.
that's over, Bert, it'll be time to take this hat off and put the Bills hat back on.
Yeah.
And then the cycle will continue, the vicious cycle of the fans of the teams I chose.
Yeah.
And that's how that's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's a reason why I'm a firm believer in the fact that if you are passionate about your sports teams, chances are you're going to die a lot earlier than you thought. And it's just from the sheer emotion and stress and heaviness of it all, especially if your teams keep making it to the playoffs and far into the playoffs just to fuck you up all over again.
Yeah.
Can't stand it.
Oh, you know what? Hold on, Bert. I got something for the Bills fans out there in the world. Hey, I'll put my Bills hat back on when I do this. Hey, you Bills fans telling me to go root for another team. Fuck you. All right. Sean McDermott is still our coach for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I said, it doesn't matter what the Buffalo Bills do, because as long as Sean McDoofy is the coach, we're never going to win. Josh Allen is the reason why, you want to go back to 20 years of misery. You remember what the 20 years before Sean McDermott was here? No. I remember what the 20 years were before Josh Allen got here. And don't bring up the Tyrod Taylor year where we backed into the playoffs thanks to Cincinnati beating Baltimore. I don't give Sean. I mean, what are you talking about? We've won 9. We won 9 games with Wade Phillips. We've won 9 games with Doug Marrone. We just didn't. The math helped us out here, not Sean McDermott's brilliant coaching. A monkey could win 10 plus games with Josh Allen. Sean McDermott is awful. He's not the reason we're winning. He's the reason we're losing, folks. And I can be objective. The fact that I can be objective and shit on my team and call out the bullshit when I see it makes me a better fan than you. Period. Point blank. All this you're so used to mediocrity that you treat the half glass full as full. No, it's the glass is not full. It's half full. The Denver Broncos had a really great team under John Fox, and they were like, "Oh, we can't get rid of John Fox. We've been to the AFC title game. We did it." They fired his ass, and you know what they did? They got Gary Kubiak, and what they do the very next year, Bert? They won the goddamn Super Bowl. All right. Sometimes you need a new voice. John Gruden built the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but the voice got old. Tony Dungy came in. What'd he do, Bert? He won the Super Bowl. Bill Cowher, a little bit different. He won the Super Bowl, retired, but Mike Tomlin came in. What'd he do? He won the Super Bowl. Okay. And sometimes you just you hit your ceiling in life. Sean McDermott has hit his ceiling. I don't know how much more proof you need. I don't know. Josh Allen, just read the stat to you. Josh Allen has never left the field losing a game in a playoff elimination game. It's because of Sean McDermott we're losing these games, folks. And so save all those better luck next year tweets that you've been shooting off, because as long as he's in charge, you'll be sending them again this time next year. So all you fans out there trying to tell me to go find a new team, no, you go find a new team. I'm here to stay, and there's nothing you can do about it. All right.
Yeah.
I'm back to the Mets.
No, that's fine. I mean, honestly, it's weird to me that there are fans defending the fact that they had a good season. I'm going to be like, even if
we didn't even have a good season, we were 6-6, Bert. We weren't having a good season.
That's the thing.
We went on a good run.
Accepting the fact that like they could have been more. Like
Right.
that's it for me. I mean, like you look at the Bruins last year who ran through the regular season just to lose to a wild card team, and the Panthers who ended up making the Stanley Cup finals and losing, but still like, the Panthers took them 7 games. This was the best team, not just in the NHL last year, but in NHL history, according to numbers. And yeah, their fans are pissed. Take a look at Lions fans right now for what they witnessed this year and a 30-year playoff drought should be sitting around going, this was a good season. I believe in Dan Campbell. And I think they should.
They should
but
be.
I can guarantee you there's some that are sitting around going, we should be doing press week. Like we should be the ones taking the pictures and getting ready for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And they're probably still super fucking salty about it. But I mean, on to the next for next year for them. My bad this week is the fact that we have 2 all-star breaks going on right now, which means there's only one one of the main 4 professional sports leagues that's going on currently, which is basketball. Nothing against basketball, but I'm much happier when I have more sports to watch. There was no football aside from a clown show of an all-star game in the Pro Bowl. And then same thing with the NHL. And look, aside from the skills competition for both, which, where we are and when we're doing this, football's going on, I think currently. And then the NHL will have their skills comp tomorrow night. So it's it's going to be a lonely weekend without real sports except for basketball.
Yeah, and the basketball lately the basketball overall this year has been good, but lately it's too many injuries. And NBA trade deadline, there's a lot of weird things happening, and so there hasn't been a monster trade yet. There's been good trades, and I'll probably get into them this week later on with JT. But there's some good trades that'll help teams, but yeah, these professional leagues need to space out their all-star breaks a little bit. I don't. It's like in the summer and the wintertime when all the like good TV shows all go away at the same time.
Oh yeah,
and I'm like, y'all got to figure something out. Like Law and Order and FBI can't go off at the same time. Like, I need Chicago PD. Like y'all need to stagger it. So I have something, and so there's that. My fugly is the Detroit Lions fumbling. They should be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
you let Brock Purdy outscore you 27-7 in the second half of that game.
Yeah,
a lot of people are going to point to Dan Campbell's 4th and 3 going for it call. I mentioned it earlier, or I mentioned it on our socials. Listen, their kicker is not good, especially from the range that they were going to have to kick it at. He's like not even I think it's like not even 50%. He's bad. They went for it on 4th and 3 in plus territory 20 times this past season, and they made it 17 of those times.
Yeah.
The advanced analytics, the next gen stats, the stuff that everybody kind of goes by these days, says to go for it. And generally he's been good at it. They just didn't execute. And his problem was he did it again because he's just a double down guy. Like when Decker reported but somehow didn't report, and he went for it on 4th and 7. You know what I mean? Like he's kind of like, but that's what got you there. People will talk about situational awareness and all that. Dan Campbell didn't blow a 17-point lead in the second half. Like that call didn't have a 17-point swing. You know what I'm saying?
No, but I understand what you're saying, and I think I don't think any game should come down to one play, one call, or anything else, unless it is a missed field goal. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you're relying on one chance to win yourself a game, then you shouldn't be in that position anyway. You should be up comfortably. But what I will say is, when you're managing pace of the football game, and I understand all the next gen and analytics said go for it. The kick is iffy. It's just, man, like had he made it, it would have tied it, would have broken up a little bit of momentum for the 49ers. Now who's to say after that,
right?
Anything could have happened. I think doubling down on it and doing it again and being unsuccessful again is kind of like, at this point, what are we doing? Like kind of learn from
but at that point when he did it again, the Niners were already well back in it. You know what I mean? So it was like that. Maybe that wasn't the time to do it. But like I said earlier in the game when it was 24-10, all right, you go up 27-10. I think it makes it worse that they lost by 3. So people do that funky math where like like that 3 would have mattered. We don't know that. Like, we don't know what the circumstances could have been. It's just that's the way the math ended up matching. So I do feel bad for Dan Campbell, but the Lions, I think a different position from the Bills. The Lions shouldn't have been there in the first place. You know what I mean? Like, they had a good team, but nobody preseason picked the Lions to be one of the best 4 teams in the NFL. And so it's a winning season for them, considering that, you know, before him, they went 0-16 the year, you know what I mean, before he got there. Like, you went from 0-16 and in 3 short years to the NFC title game. And yes, you can criticize some of the play calling, but you need to criticize Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator. You need to criticize Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, not Dan Campbell, the guy who actually brought you from the gutter and basically took all the bullets, took all of the criticism and got you there. And so,
and it took all the criticism after the game too.
And,
owned up to it, was like, it is what it is. I stand by it. You know, as people can basically people can comment and talk all they want, but hey, like, that's if there's not a better clip to show you how sound that locker room is and what they're about, and like that one team, one dream type thing, that's Dan Campbell saying, we did it, we don't regret it. Next year, we know we're just gonna have to be a little bit better and call it a day. And that was that. And he is taking all the heat essentially. So I mean,
went as far as to say that, like, he would do it again. Like, he's like, I trust my guys. We convert that, and I would trust them to do it again. And like, even and we're gonna get to it after you do your fugly, but Ben Johnson, the highest touted offensive coordinator on the market, he was like written in as a head coach somewhere, like a surefire. Went back to that team for unfinished business. That tells you what Dan Campbell.
He didn't even what was it? He didn't even take calls or offers or anything. Right?
I think he did. I think he did an interview, but he never did a second interview with the Commanders, and I believe he did it with the Seahawks. Or one of those teams. And but like, it was more like he took their call. He didn't call, like, he just was like, he's like, oh, okay, and then quickly was like, you know what? Nah, I think I'm gonna stay where I'm at. So that's good for him.
I mean, I thought about the Lions, but kind of thought it was, you know, I'm sure you were going to do it, and then it was a quick one. But something we haven't spoken about in the past 2 weeks, when this kind of has been going on, and my fugly goes to the 5 NHL players that are being charged with sexual assault allegations in Canada, stemming from a 2018 Canadian World Juniors incident that happened. But the reason I'm giving it a fugly is obviously it's a terrible situation, but what I've seen in the past couple of years is hockey clubs, and particularly hockey federations, much like the Canadian team at this point, have for some reason been sneakily good at covering up sexual assault. And it happened with the Blackhawks a couple of years ago, of something that happened in 2010 that finally made its way in 2021, I think, and blew up that organization with too little repercussions, in my own personal opinion, for that whole club. And now we have something that happened close to 5 years ago that's just coming out now, when likely individuals within that organization knew about it. I'm speculating here, but tried to cover it up. Now you have 5 individuals that have been playing in the NHL that were literally called back by Toronto police saying, you need to turn yourselves in. They left their clubs, and there they are. Now, with that being said, innocent until proven guilty, right? Sure. I'm also a believer in that, but it's not a good look for any sport when obviously shit like this comes out, and you feel for the victims going through it. And look, I hope we do find out the truth through a process, and they're tried and the results come out as they should, depending on how it goes. But man, the fact that this all came out, it's like, it's just fugly through and through, and just shouldn't happen.
There's a lot of fucking scumbags out there, man. You got, Vince McMahon of the WWE, you scumbag. And like, and it's so funny because you go back and you think about the history of like how they treat women on TV. And like back then, not to say that it was like cool or acceptable. It's just one of those things. Like that was the times, you know what I mean? Like nobody really thought about it. And then you go back and you're like, man, and a couple years ago, there was a female wrestler who committed suicide. And I remember she had brought up, and she wasn't saying that like Vince McMahon was the reason. but she alluded that like she had to do things. Vince McMahon was mentioned, and it was like, man, like some of the stuff he's putting these female wrestlers through, and like it's like Dan Snyder, man. Like it reminds me of that
Yo,
type of thing. And
that's
I'm like,
very,
God,
it's very, very
yeah,
similar in those
yeah.
cases. Yeah, yeah.
So I hope those. I mean, listen, if those 5 NHL players are innocent for what, however, like I'm a big believer in smoke and fire, man. But so I don't know the facts. It's odd, like 5 of y'all,
I
you
mean,
know.
the fact that this, I'm with you. Where there's smoke, there's fire. You have to look at the fact 5 years ago this happened. It's now
Mm-hmm.
coming out. They have these individuals by name and they're telling them to report because they're being charged. Now, I don't know. That might be
Yeah,
how the Canadian justice system
justice,
works,
just
so to
yeah,
speak.
right,
Have to do it.
right.
But there are individuals that are obviously proclaiming innocence and saying don't make any judgments.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, there's a small part of me where if they are found guilty, I hope they truly did do
Yeah,
it because,
yeah.
as we know, in any type of fame-induced world, including sports, even the allegation in itself, even if they are proven innocent, will literally ruin them and all that they've worked hard for.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to, I mean, this happened in the World Juniors for Canada, which means these individuals are anywhere from, I'll say, 16 to 20, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. So
Yeah.
it's just kids doing shit that they should not be doing. And look, there's someone out there whose life is worse off because of their actions. And this is where, when everything comes out, justice will come about too. So
Yeah, Matt Ariza from the
yeah.
kicker that the Bills drafted, and come to find out he wasn't even at the party, and
Yep.
his life is ruined. Like
Yep.
it's bad. I hope the kid gets a chance in this offseason. I really do. Like I hope the Bills give it to him, if anybody. Not that I mean, I don't think he would want to go back to the Bills, but he did say that like Josh Allen, when he was kind of exonerated, he did say like Josh Allen and guys were always in touch with him throughout the
Yeah.
whole process. Like always, every once in a while, would shoot him a text, just check on him, things like that. So hopefully, maybe he doesn't have any ill will towards the Bills. Maybe he understands, and hopefully, maybe the Bills will give